Today, what is the difference between rock and stone? This is ChillPoint.
Is that the secret we'll find if we just keep digging?
Perhaps.
I think we could just ask a geologist. I feel like somebody already knows the answer.
I mean, that's actually a voice line from Deep Rock Galactic. Like, they go like, rock and stone. And then another voice line is, wait, what is the difference between rock and stone?
Good.
I think stone is the word you use when you're trying to sell someone something because it sounds more impressive than it's just made out of rocks. Like, no one goes around saying, this rock table. They say the stone table,
It's true.
right?
It's true.
Stoneware is more of a thing than, say, rockware.
But
Unless you're
bone
a rocker,
china.
then
The bones of rocks.
Yeah. Maybe the bones of rocks.
Anyway.
do rocks have bones?
No?
Is that wait? So stone must mean that this because it rhymes with bone. Stone is the bone of the rock.
Yes.
Okay.
If you just dig through the rock further, you'll find the stone.
Yeah.
Or the rock
flesh and
stones.
bone, rock and stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
This makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Hey,
Yeah.
look, everyone's trying to explain it to us, and I don't
Oh,
care.
no, I've never looked at chat for an explanation.
Also, I feel like the geological differentiation between rock and stone is probably the different from what the colloquial separation that asteroid mining dwarves would use in the future. Futuristic asteroid mining dwarves would probably have their own particular definition of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
I like that. That's good lore.
yeah. Anyway, hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about video game news.
How are you doing, Paul?
Not doing too badly. How about you?
Doing all right. I just realized I didn't get to ask you earlier today. I asked you what you were eating, but I feel like I should have asked you how you were doing
I'm very
first. Like, it
full.
seems more polite to ask you how you're doing first. People are being like, what'd you
Everybody
get?
always asks, what am I eating? Nobody ever asks, how am I feeling?
I know, right?
How are you eating, Paul?
Yeah, nobody ever asks, how are you eating? Yeah, I know. Actually, I mean, I guess Deep Rock Galactic is sort of
Related to food?
peripherally related to one of the stories this week. But I do love, you're talking about lore, that there is lore, or there's like some, background lore stuff that you never find out about
Oh.
that are just like in voice lines. Like sometimes your guy will be like, for Carl. And it's never explained who Carl is.
No. Why would
Or
it?
it's like, we're going to beat this guy's record. And it's like, who's that guy? I don't know.
Why was there a record? Yeah. What is his record?
Anyway. Now let's talk about some video game news as well as the episode of ChillPoint.
We had one.
Yeah.
Yay.
For one thing, there was an episode of ChillPoint. And you may have noticed
That there were stories in it.
and there are stories in it that were maybe a little more
Seasoned?
well seasoned,
May have noticed.
They marinated.
well marinated than sometimes other things we do, and that's because some of the stories were written for last week's episode of ChillPoint, which due to various issues we were not able to record, but
Yeah,
we
but that
found
just
out,
means we got a bunch of work done early.
yeah, we found out that we couldn't record it
Like, way too late
too late to not have already done the
to
stories.
not have done the work.
It's nice though because it's one of the rare times that when I had written the story for last week, I was like, "What's the angle I'm taking here?" And I was like, "Well, I'm doing the story about Assassin's Creed Shadows because the book's on ehentai.org." And I'm like, "Now, what's the angle I'm taking?" It's like clearly I have no idea what eHentai.org is. That's going to be my angle for the great. I have a story idea, and then I went and I sat down and I wrote my like 4 or 5 different jokes I wanted to make, and then I had the story, and I just said to Heather, like when I'd finished writing it all and had like even had written the things on Wednesday night, I'm like, Heather, it's 8:00 at night, and I'm done my story for ChillPoint. Like we're getting 4 this week. We know that, and I wrote my one that I'm doing, so I'm done. It's not 3 a.m.
So Beach was kind of like,
I was super excited.
I don't have to write another story, and I don't want to.
So I'm not
Because
going
I'm
to.
tired. So I just don't care,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't have to. And I'm like, yeah, these are all true statements.
And then you were able to spend the next week doing important research on your story.
Sure was.
To make sure it was accurate.
Yeah, definitely doing punch up.
So what's our first story?
The first story we talked about was about Peter Ackman being a terrible
A
person.
douche.
Yeah. So
Doing a dumbass thing.
what I find interesting about this is this story kind of came out in layers because it came out that this happened, that like a water bomber was grounded by getting hit by a drone. And so they knew that, but then a little while later, they, uncovered the wreckage of the drone. And I guess there's identifying serial numbers and stuff on that they were able to trace it back to who it was. But for a long time, they weren't releasing the name. It was an unidentified person. And then it became, they actually released the name. And then, as we talk about there's lots of stories, lots of important news that happens in the world that we don't talk about on ChillPoint. Right. But sometimes important news has a weird interaction with video game news, and then we get to talk about it. And in this case,
It's very exciting.
the huge asshole in question. I don't even know if that's the appropriate.
Like I wouldn't. The thing is, I like that's just you made a terrible decision.
Yeah.
You said I'm going to do this thing, and you stretched a form of entitlement to be like I'm allowed to do this thing that I'm clearly not allowed to do. Those rules are for someone else.
Yeah. It's so like, it's not even like malicious. It's just not thinking.
Yeah,
it's just being like, oh, this will be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, because
not understanding the danger.
Fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this will be interesting. I can shoot footage of this water bomber and I'll be able to show it to all my friends or get fucking clout on Instagram or whatever it was that was motivating that thing. It probably is just like personal clout of, hey, look, I shot this cool video of the water bomber that was helping put out these fires.
I believe he couldn't see it anymore.
Sorry?
I believe he couldn't see the drone anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah, so I don't think he was intentionally going after the water bomber in terms of trying to take footage of it. Chances are he was just trying to get footage of fire.
Yeah.
And lost track of it.
From the documents, it says he was trying to get some cool footage of the fire. And,
Yeah, this is the
And
third
in
airplane
the-
I've heard get taken down
Yeah.
in like a
I
month.
would suspect that like an airplane, especially something sort of big and slow like a water bomber,
Yeah.
it probably has a significant amount of like
Turbulence.
turbulence and like basically like if a drone or something gets close enough to it, it probably gets like sucked into it. Like it's
Absolutely.
It's not just to sort of randomly hit it. It's like probably if you get anywhere near it, it's which is why it was a no-fly zone. Now, a mitigating factor, not saying that it's in his defense, but one of the mitigating factors is that he had this is a
DJI Phantom?
something like that,
Sure.
yeah. Which has a built-in geofencing system in it that is supposed to stop it from flying into areas it's not allowed to fly into.
Cool.
He had that on.
Okay.
So either it wasn't working or it doesn't update fast enough that that area was included in the thing.
That's interesting.
Whatever the case.
Okay.
And so that was sort of part of his defense. He said like he was relying on that to tell him that he shouldn't do it and he's like, well, the drone says it's fine.
I wanted the computers to tell me whether it was okay to do something or not. And it's like, What if he just didn't do the thing in the middle of a big emergency?
Also, yes, DGI, either, I don't know if they've fully stopped enforcing those fences, but they certainly don't enforce them as much as they should. Anyway, obviously, so he's got a big fine, has to pay for the repair of the vehicle. And I think 150 hours of community service.
In Quebec as well? Like, you have to go to Quebec and he has to...
I hope he does.
Yeah, he has to
I don't know.
show up in Montreal.
I mean, the damage that was mainly... I think he's going to be...
help build bike lanes.
Yeah, I think it's community service in LA.
Yeah,
in
like
Canada.
I get people wanting to take footage of things, but frankly, if a bunch of stuff is on fire, get out of the fucking way and let people do their jobs. You do not need to be there.
Yeah.
You at best you're just slightly in the way. At worst, you end up a person who has to be rescued.
Yeah.
Do not be there.
Yeah, like even if you don't have a drone,
Drone or not,
just like people
don't be
standing
there.
around watching a fire is still not helpful.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, story-wise though, because this did get, it wasn't unnoticeable. Yes, if you did note, we did ADR part of the story. Graham accidentally said June.
He said,
instead of January.
And
by the time we noticed,
we recorded it multiple times.
it was really late.
We recorded it multiple times, and I was listening to it. Graham was saying it. Beej was right there. None of us noticed.
No, that's not true. Actually.
So you noticed and just didn't say anything?
Yes.
Beach noticed and then forgot by the time he was supposed to
By
say
the time we got to the end of the thing, I was like, all right, I guess we move on. Because
not only do you not get credit for that,
Yeah.
you actually lose credit for that.
I want to come completely clean that I could have saved all this trouble by just saying something. But when he went on June 9th, and I'm like, he just said June. No, he didn't. No, I'm sure he did. I'll ask him at the end if that's what he and Paul both heard, June or not. That's what I'll do. I'll wait until the end. Maybe he did that on purpose. Whatever. And then we get to the end of the story and I'm like, right, and I got to start my story.
Yeah.
But of course, at the end of the story, there was a brief pause as well. It wasn't an immediate cut. There was room there for me to because it wasn't like we were going right to my story. Like, I better hurry up and say it. I had time to go, I think you said June. Completely blanked.
Yeah,
In my defense, 3 hours of sleep. I wasn't maintaining any sort of memory, short-term or long-term, yesterday.
The only reason I even noticed to go look was because the story had to do with the fires, and I was like, they haven't been going on since June, have they?
Yeah, but we're so used to fire
I
everywhere
know, but
all year.
That's right. That's why I was like, I'm going to check the script. Okay, the script says January. But what if the script is wrong? I need to go ask and find out.
Anyway.
Look, our options were ADRing, which we decided to try.
It was pretty good.
It was all right. Or doing the thing that sometimes we do, which is like an asterisk.
We did it, yeah. And we were in a hurry, so we sort of just did it quickly. We didn't do it the way you're properly supposed to do ADR, where you're listening to it as you're doing it.
It
Which
was a patch
his
job.
His tone was sort of different than it should have been. But
Yeah.
anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should have just, what we should have done? We should have just bleeped it.
Yeah, probably.
Not even put Jan up, just bleeped it on bleep 9th. Did
I
he
mean,
say
so
on
I think
fucking
I'm
9th?
actually pretty sure I've
Why
done
would
that
he do
on
that?
Bleeped out things that don't need to be bleeped in order to cover for something?
I know I did it once in an after show for a spoiler that then chat went on about whether or not that's a spoiler or not, but I personally think it's funny to bleep a person and then have the word spoilers show up over their mouth.
I like the way that Craig Ferguson used to do it, where it'd be like a country's flag and it would be somebody
Sacre bleu.
yeah, ooh la la.
Yeah.
Or like an Italian one,
Yeah.
it would have something in
We
Italian.
did do that ADR once on when we brought in the new streams ages ago because Graham said the name of what the stream was, but we changed our mind on what that stream name was going to be, and so we blanked out his, but we ADR'd James in with a monotone voice, and it was really funny.
I mean, that's
Maybe
the way.
next time I should do
Yeah,
that.
sometimes that's the way to do it. Like just lampshade it.
Honestly, sometimes just pointing your mistakes out further is even better.
Or just have everybody deliver all the stories like this, so we're covered
yeah.
in case.
Like one of my favorite mail times is the technical difficulties one where Beach forgot to turn on half the lights for partway through the show. Beach just like unplugged his mic and went somewhere and then didn't plug it back in. So I had like a whole section that was like Beach is like, I'm gonna plug this back in when I come in, and I had like spoilers, he doesn't remember and stuff. Like, I mean, sometimes you just gotta.
In my defense,
Point it out
3 hours
yourself.
sleep.
Yeah, not on that one. No, you can't say that for everything.
Anyway,
I could sleep for another 3 hours right now, actually.
I'm sure you could. How much sleep did you get last night?
7, 8.
Okay,
7,
cool.
7.
So later in this episode,
Yeah.
when we blame you for something for today,
Yeah.
and you say 3 hours sleep, that's a lie.
but in his defense, he's on 3 hours of sleep, so he can't possibly remember how many hours of sleep he had.
Well, whose side are you on? Why are you on his
See,
side?
he's in the middle. He's strictly in the middle.
No, Paul's got to choose a side, and it's got to be this one.
All right. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed.
Chad, I don't want to see you defending Beach. No, I will turn you off.
Chat loves Beej and I love
I will
Beej.
turn them off.
So Assassin's Creed, the Assassin's Creed art book got leaked for whatever reason. It was, I don't know,
Oh, I can tell you why.
because it's just like a place to upload stuff
It's-
that there's no checking on.
It gets checked very, so ehentai.org gets checked very rarely, is my understanding, for art book stuff, which is why if you go there and look under the non-H sections for like artwork and stuff like that, you will find lots of licensed art books there that have never been claimed by any sort of publishing agency to be like, this stuff should come down. It's kind of like the place to go to upload this stuff.
I mean, as with any sort of image host, it's, I assume it's like 90% other people's copyrighted material.
Oh,
anyway,
absolutely.
right?
90%. It's probably at least 100%.
Is this the website that's going to be like how we prevent literature from going missing in the coming years?
Funny,
Probably.
I mean, like, yeah, like it'll be
Like-
one of those kind of archives where it's like the fact that everyone's hosting pornography here, but also there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's here.
there's-
That's how we're paying for it.
where there's a bunch of when a bunch of people moved from other hosting things to like Pornhub,
Yeah.
just because they, not because they were doing porn, but because they were doing other content, like they were doing like LGBT positive content,
Yeah.
that was getting blocked on YouTube.
Oh, because
Exactly.
I mean that's a lot of the stuff I see right now. Because is stuff about books that that people think might get banned. So like grab them physically while you can. Make sure you have backups of certain things.
Yeah.
And I like even to the point where some people believe that trying to tell your stories on Instagram is going to get cut off. And I'm like, yeah, so those are going to be the places that save us, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so that it ended, the stories essentially, it ended up there. Ubisoft was trying to get everything taken down quite quickly, and then actually they did manage to get it. Like, I guess they talked to the hosts or whatever and said this needs to come down, it's copyrighted, and somebody pulled it down. So
And
it'll probably go back up again in a few weeks.
or I'm sure lots of people archived it while it was there.
There's that too, yeah.
But now the things that I liked about this story, or about this particular reading of
take.
the story, or that I thought was interesting. For one thing, the vibe of the eHentai site, it's a very it's got this like very old school image board sort of
Feels a lot like 4chan.
text based
Yeah.
thing, which that's their aesthetic. It's fine, but for what I'm doing up the shoulder graphics, like the visual, they don't have a logo. Like there's no it's just the word.
Well,
In
not
text.
a logo that they can show off.
No, there's literally no logos anywhere on the
No,
site.
it's probably pixelated. So much into invisibility that you can't see it. You
and
don't know, Beach. It's fine. You've only had 3
But-
hours of sleep,
Yeah,
so you
you're
won't
right.
notice.
Yeah, she's
And
right.
so yeah, like, and obviously the screenshot of Bija's account on there was not true. Was not right, and you could tell it wasn't correct because they wouldn't waste so much space with the person's name. That would be that space that could be used for showing more pictures.
I will give everybody credit in the fact that there weren't a bunch of comments saying like, "Hey, wait, that's not how you log into that site. That's not what that looks like when you log in
There
there."
were many people who wanted to know about the blog that you had so that they
Yeah,
could go
a lot
look
of
at
people
it,
were
though.
like, "I would read this blog."
Yeah.
It's called Bija's Anime Roundup,
Yep.
and
It happens roughly every 3 months.
Yeah.
Yep. It's I did say to
I think
Paul
we're
when
still
he
a
was
month away for your next one.
we are when Paul was showing off the images to me though, because I had a really good giggle at your creation, because I was like, it's so, when you see the site, anybody who's like, because it's like, that could have just looked like, oh, somebody, you just went to like a random website and you just did it. It's like, that could be any website. It's like, it actually couldn't be any website. It is definitely just that website. And you will know that if you've been there. And so you will give yourself away.
What I loved wasn't so much people being like, hey, that's not what the login screen or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a significant number of people in the comments that recognize that not from the homepage, but from the "this thing has been deleted" screen. It's like the specific colors and how that thing is in the middle of the screen. It's like, I've seen that.
Oh my
I've seen
God.
that too many times.
Oh, that's so funny. I also one of my favorite gags in the story was because we were showing off images of things, and I was glad to get Lady Oichi in there. But also, I was really happy to get Osaka, a picture of Osaka, and I was like, "What am I going to use?" And I was like, "Oh, Dotenbori. I'm going to use the lights of Osaka, as a representation of what you're going to see in this art book or in the game." Which, of course, you're not, because Osaka did not look at all like that.
Right.
Back when this
Yeah.
game takes place.
Is
Now-
this art book like a separate thing that they were selling, or was it part of like a special edition
Oh yeah.
of the game? Or
I believe it's like both. Like you can buy it separately, or there's also like a
Okay,
fancy
'cause, like,
edition that has it with it.
It's probably leaked
Tears
by
of the
pump
Kingdom, when
printer.
what got some of its leaks going was its art book as well, and that was like a special edition buy, and it had spoilers as to like what the Zonai looked like and a bunch of things
Right,
that
yeah.
they hadn't revealed at all from the game.
And that's the same thing for this, apparently, that according to, because obviously it's an art book, you want to be an art book of the whole game. So there's
So
clearly
you can show characters that they haven't shown in the
exactly.
trailers yet.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
we knew that this would be an issue, or we knew that this will be like, now it's like, we know a lot of things that will be in the game that we maybe had heard about, but we hadn't
It's
seen.
just
So now we get to
it's
see
this
them.
kind of
and-
thing of like if
Yeah.
people are getting stuff from the game leaked through art books, that's just another reason to push off not releasing an art book for
a couple months or something.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Because
let
you're probably getting it leaked by somebody at the printers then.
Yeah.
and it's like give people time to play the game so that they know, so that they can appreciate the art book.
But there must be, and I guess the whole reason for doing this is that it must make sense from the marketing mix, where they're like, people are going to be so hyped for buying the game,
They didn't want the special editions.
and not even just the special edition thing of getting the art book like with the game, but more the idea of that even they'll just want to be able to have the art book as well. So they'll be like,
Yeah.
even if it wasn't a deluxe edition, it's like, no, they're buying the game, they're hyped for the game, they'll want to buy the art book, they'll want to buy the cheese grater, they'll want to buy the record cleaner, they'll want to buy all the things that go along with the game. When anything we can slap a logo on, they'll want to buy it. So do that now and
Well,
release it
I mean,
now for them.
typically,
And
like you do
assuming
want
it is not going to have a long tail.
you do want to try to get your. Well, it's not about long tail. It's about you want that stuff out while the hype is still high, which is typically in the
When the
release
game
window,
launches.
right? Not
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's if you put out art books and stuff later, the reason those typically go so well is the fandom of that specific thing is still really high.
Yeah.
I mean, the art book has sort of the same problem as one of my pet peeves as somebody who often comes to games a little later.
Have you had your come to a video game moment?
But like, when I played Persona 5 Royal,
Right.
because it's the like Royal version, it had a bunch of extra stuff in it.
Right.
And it's got this thing where like in your home place, there's like a cardboard box. And I was like, go over to the cardboard box. It's like, do you want to look in it? And I sure. I look into it. And for the next 30 seconds, just bing, 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 stuff's coming up on screen. Like all the items it's giving me.
Oh, yeah.
It like literally gives you like a huge ton of stuff.
Because
a
it's
bunch
like
of money, a bunch of
you're
items.
You're supposed to get a notification when you get something new, but you're really only going to get like 2 or 3 of them typically throughout,
Right.
like when it happens, but because you've got a whole dump, it's
But
just like all of your notifications are popping up.
But as a player who has never, not only not played Persona 5 before, but not played a Persona game, I didn't, like, there was no warning that this was going to happen. And like, I want a game to be like, it's like, it's like, yeah, cool. If you're playing it for the second time, getting all those items is fun. But games should have a mode that's like, I want to play it as it is originally played.
Oh, okay.
Like I want it so for one thing, I got all these items. So like the economy was basically completely screwed for my game because I had all these expensive items and all this money.
And but also like a bunch of stuff you probably didn't know what to do with at first because you hadn't.
Well, I didn't know what I was supposed to have and what I wasn't supposed to have.
Right.
But also, it gave me a ton of costumes, including costumes for people and places I hadn't seen yet.
Right. Yeah.
So now I know that like this guy and this guy and this guy are going to be coming to my thing. There's the costume for this particular event that's going to happen sometime in the future. And it was like, I don't know if these are significant or not, but I'm kind of pissed off that you told me. It's like, that should be a setting.
I had that happen when I was playing Saints Row.
Yeah, new game minus.
When I was playing Saints Row 3 and 4, I think they both did this on the Switch because it comes with everything, right? And so right off the top in the game, you start with, here you can always summon this one car, and but then when I actually started really playing the game, it's like, well, you can always summon this one car and also this VTOL jet. And I'm like, what? And you don't get access to that jet until much later in the game normally as part of a mission. But it's like, but we're giving you the Saints Row branded one of it because you're playing the one that has all those things unlocked.
Yeah.
And so now you just have access to that jet anytime you
generally,
want it.
I agree with what Paul's saying because the idea of what Beej is saying is they've expected that the person who wants to buy this like all-in-one package is potentially someone who's played before, who might not want to go through the grind again.
And that's
but you are going to get people who are new, so having an option to be like, please don't do that.
And it's just like, I don't even know what's like there, Persona's got a whole thing with like there's all the personas, and then
But if they give you special weapons that outrank, say the weapons you're going to unlock in like the next
in chapter 2
several hours, well maybe even like up to chapter 3 or 4, then there's no excitement in getting a new weapon,
right? And what happened, and often they're not differentiated, and so in Persona 5 Royal, like there's a whole thing with like summoning, you can resummon personas that you've lost, right? They cost a certain amount of money. You can bring them back. In Persona 5 Royal, there are like 10 personas that are just there that are like ridiculously high level personas that cost 0 to summon.
Oh my god!
Wow!
And if I
never paid attention to that.
If I hadn't realized that those were being put in by the Royal thing,
right,
and I had just used those, then it basically would mean the whole Persona part of the game was pointless because I had better personas than the entire game already.
Right.
Like they were like end game personas that I could just get at level like 5.
Yeah, Jesus. That's too bad.
And it's just like, I get that those are fun for people who are already into the game, but have a version where I can just play it without that,
or at least,
or like gray those out or something.
Yeah, mark them or something, or it's like you have this in your inventory. You can use this if you want to, but we're going to mark it as a thing so it was like part of your DLC, you start a brand. I like new
they
game
give you the
mods.
strongest persona in the game. Yeah.
So crazy.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, we'll see. I will say, despite everything, I am still kind of interested in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Great.
I'll see what comes out of it.
You didn't go download a copy of the art book or anything yourself?
No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that aspect. I'm interested in it as a game.
Absolutely. Not as a piece of art. Yeah. That's fair.
But I quite enjoyed.
Right, that's the one with the two characters that you swap between, right?
Yeah,
Like
Black
more of
Samurai.
like a samurai and a ninja.
Yeah. A
Yeah,
lady ninja.
and I quite enjoyed.
Kunoichi.
Which one? I don't know. One of the Assassin's Creeds. There, you play as two characters. You play
Yeah.
as like a
always
brother
get-
and sister.
So confused by the so like because when Assassin's Creed comes up in the unskippables and I'll look through it. It's the start of the game, so it's always some dude walking into like a science thing because of the whatever, and I always forget that that's part of it because you never really see that in the advertising anymore.
And after
just like,
after
who are these people?
4 Black Flag, they dropped the numbering. So it was like Assassin's Creed Origins, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed something. Syndicate, that was it. Yeah, Syndicate had the twins. It's like you play as like a brother and a sister, and you can choose, and they have slightly different abilities. They aren't that different, whereas it sounds like for Shadows, the two players are going to be quite different. But anyway, should be interesting.
Yeah, I just constantly keep forgetting that the story structure of that game is you're in like the future or
Yeah.
normal, like whatever time period we're actually supposed to be in, and you're in like a lab doing a memory thing.
Yeah, and then you
or
get
whatever.
it, you-
And until I do an unskippable episode that has it, and they're like,
Yeah.
who are these people? Why is this here? Where's the
It's-
person with the hood?
It's Assassin's Creed, I think it's 2
Right.
with Ezio, which has a great like way of introducing the game or introducing the mechanics, because Ezio, unlike the first game where you're like, I'm a, sort of almost monastic.
Okay.
Oh, right. He's got like a
assassin
trilogy or
thing.
something.
Whereas Ezio sort of comes to the assassination thing later in life a little bit, and he's like he's an Italian sort of playboy.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And so like the movement tutorial is
How to walk down a
jumping out of a
catwalk?
girl's window while her dad is chasing you across the rooftops. And so
Yeah,
you
all
have to-
right.
Like that.
Have the Assassin's Creed games always been because mostly what I hear about them these days is the fact that they're open world and they put all their markers on the map and towers and stuff. Have they always been that way?
Yeah. Well, mostly, yeah. I mean, you can choose how much you see, but since very early on, Assassin's Creed has been a lot of you'll
okay. So it's
you'll
always
go
kind
up
of
and
been
do a
that kind of
tower,
game.
and then it'll be like
Right.
there's like all these things that you can collect. Sometimes they'll be show more or less, or sometimes like the collectibles won't be on your map because you'll have to find them. But yeah, they do have a lot of collecty things. Anyway, boop. Dragon Age,
Oh yeah.
Veilguard, which you've been playing. You were saying
Yeah.
you've been really enjoying.
I've been having fun with it. I don't know any of these other people who've been. No, that's not true. I know
Yes.
people who didn't enjoy it, and that's fine.
Only a scant 1.5 million people have played it.
Engaged with it.
Have engaged with it.
Which is half of what they expected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, it's that thing of like, if 1.5 million people playing your game isn't enough, maybe that illustrates something wrong with your development process. I'm just saying.
Just could be.
But anyway,
I mean, it's so like, because I've seen people argue this where they're like, oh well, that's not the number of people who bought the game, and I'm like, that's true. That's not the wording they used. They didn't say 1.5 million copies sold.
well, it is on EA Play, like it's on the streaming.
Yeah.
thing.
So there's that. They're probably also including
Or on the
any
game
codes they
subs.
gave out for review and such as well. But then I've also seen people argue that it's like, well, other games sold more, and that's why this one's a failure. And I'm like, we don't know anything. The only failure point you ever have when you make a product is somebody makes a chart where they're like, this is how much we have to sell in order to get back for the thing that we put into it. That's the only way you know if something has been not necessarily successful, but that it's met expectation of you put money into it and you didn't lose money on it. If their expectations were that we needed like 3 million people to play the game or sell or whatever, that's not even necessarily a metric of did we even out. That's just this is where we expect this thing to sell, and that's going to be how your projections go for all of your other stuff.
And I mean, that's a lot of the, we've talked about this before, but that's this idea of like expectations, right?
Yeah.
So it's
and just because they expected this game to sell 3 million doesn't mean another game, because that's just false equivalency, people. If you're like, oh, well, this other game did better, and that's how you know this game's not doing as well. Every game's going to have its own projections of what they need and what goes into it. That's silly. Stop making those kinds of arguments.
And the accounting also, it's just like movies or whatever, right? Where like the accounting for whether a game sort of quote unquote made money or made back its budget is very, very tricky. Like it can be tweaked in all sorts of ways, right?
And also they're not going to tell us what those are unless they're doing incredibly well. That's how you do that, because this was at like an investors thing.
Yeah, this was an earnings call.
Whenever you're at invest, which is why you get that's why some of that stuff was being made fun of, right? We've said these words that it's just word soup to make it sound good. That's what your investors calls always are. They're trying to mitigate the investors pulling their money out, because investing is a different kind of fun thing where you can just lose stuff for vibes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so by whatever metrics they're using, EA has considered Dragon Age Veilguard to be
underperforming.
Underperforming.
I think it's maybe the best.
Yeah, no,
that's a more realistic word, right?
But underperforming.
But don't worry, Mass Effect will be fine because we got rid of people.
Right.
And it'll be fine.
So the two parts of this are, one, this quote that everyone is sort of grabbing of we need to directly connect with evolving demands of players who increasingly seek shared world features and deeper engagement alongside high quality narratives. So that shared world features is sort of the phrase that everyone's locked in on.
You want it to be a live service
as
game.
Meaning live service.
Yeah.
And there's precedent for that in the sense that we know that EA previously was pushing Dragon Age Veilguard to be a live service game, and then at some point that got rejected or that got dropped.
I have such a hard time, this is why I should never be a video game developer, maybe, is that it's like I have a hard time picturing how you take a single player RPG and say, what we need to do is make this a live service game while still letting it be a single player RPG.
So, I mean, this is where the terminology can be a little bit because live service doesn't mean like MMO, right? It could just mean
battle passes,
like the idea that
content that's
content that they'll be pushing
chaptered kind
events,
of stuff.
Yeah, essentially.
In March 2025, we'll put the dragon in.
Yeah, it's season 8 of Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
There'll be a very long roadmap.
It'll start out
that won't look like a roadmap.
Yeah. It'll be like the Lizard Age.
It's
and then it'll go a little bit farther, and it'll be like the Crocodile Age.
The best I can think of like, what kind of shared world feature?
When do we get to the Chicken Age?
What kind of shared world feature do you give to a single player game? I'm like, that's easy. You make it Dark Souls. You let people drop in on other people's games, and you let them participate in that respect. Like that's a way of doing that. That's not live service.
And like Mass Effect actually had something like that. Mass Effect 3 had a sort of separate thing from the actual game. This like defend the universe thing,
right?
Where that would I to be honest, I didn't play it, but I know it was like a multiplayer thing where you sort of did another.
That's weird. I never actually heard anyone talk about that part.
Yeah, people didn't really like it very much.
Oh, well, that might be why.
But it added to your like galactic preparation or whatever, which changes what how things go.
The big things I heard about Mass Effect, because again I have not played it, were that every time you like the 2 and the 3 game came out, if you had played the first game, your choices
apparently people did like it.
changed over and went into the sequels, which sounded actually pretty cool as a thing. Space stuff, FemShep.
Yeah.
Ending sucks. They fixed it. Still sucks.
And so
this is what I know of Mass Effect.
And so,
and something about someone's butt.
That's an instance where there's
Miranda?
where there's the game, and then there was this sort of separate piece that was the multiplayer, which had an effect on the game in the sense that it affected your galactic readiness. I think it was
your single player portion of the game.
It affected some stuff in the single player portion in terms of progress along missions.
Neat.
But it wasn't. You could not do it at all if you didn't want to play.
Yeah, I
multiplayer.
mean, I have nothing against multiplayer, but I do like that. Especially if there's a single player campaign, I do like being able to turn that stuff off if that's not a thing that I'm into. Mostly
was
just 'cause
necessary.
Mostly just because I don't want to run into randos and nobody I know plays the games that I want to play.
apparently was.
But that is like that is a way of saying you can create a shared world experience, and the fact that people just immediately jump to, well, they want to be live service, and and it's like that's not necessarily, you should never, like, the thing. I'm saying this not because I'm trying to discount the fact that I'm ignorant of the fact that EA was actually trying to shove live service into Dragon Age of Velgard. I'm saying this more that it's like, when you say something like this, that, players want shared world features, it's like, that's not, you're obfuscating as well. Like this, that whole sentence was an exercise in obfuscation. Nothing, there was nothing factual in there that was like, it was like, I'm going to say a bunch of things that are going to be very hazy words. And I'm like, man, if you had actually cut out more of the PR speak and actually said something real, then we wouldn't be absolutely dragging you for this. And you wouldn't have people being like, it's because they wanted live service. It's like, well, we knew they wanted live service, but it's also showing the ignorance on the guy who's saying it, that it makes him look ignorant, because it's like, I'm not aware of any other way to do shared world features other than just doing live service. And of course it's like, that's not what you meant, dude. And he might be like, yeah, that's not what I meant. It's like, well, then what did you mean? Actually say what you mean.
Well, again, investor meetings.
Yeah.
And
you have to do stuff for people who don't play video games.
And in some ways, they're basically doing what we're doing right now. Like, he's just like, because, when it comes right down to it, a lot of the time you don't know why a game succeeds and why another one fails.
Yes!
But when you're sitting there in front of your shareholders, you got to have some sort of answer.
Yeah.
So
It's
a lot
really
of it is
easy
BS.
for us to look at a game that's come out already and tell them why they shouldn't have done a thing the way that they did.
It's very well, and it's hard too
exactly.
to be like, we wanted to make another Dragon Age game. How did it do? It hasn't been doing that great. So it failed? That's not what I'm saying. So it's taken over the market. That's not what I'm saying. And you have only given me two sides of the coin, is that either it is the best game on the planet or it has failed utterly. And it's like, there's no room in the middle here for you guys to be like, we made another successful project.
Not.
Like,
Because
it's a project people like and they are excited by it.
You don't understand, because
There are no more niches.
There's only making all of the money.
Yeah.
Or you make none of the money.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna make all of the money, you have to have the game that all the people want, which is definitely gonna make
It's going to make
it
some
great.
other...
Yeah.
And
EA already makes that game, though. It's Madden. That's the game everybody wants.
No, it's
And then the other part of this that Heather touched on with Mass Effect is that, so Mass Effect 4 is under development. There hasn't been a ton of actual news about it.
wouldn't it? Or
Other
I guess,
than a picture that they've released saying Mass Effect.
did they
will
call
return.
it Mass Effect 4? Because I thought they did a Mass Effect 4.
They did Mass Effect Andromeda. It didn't actually have the word, it didn't have the number 4 in it. It was the fourth
So
in
it's
the
like
series.
a side
It
story.
was.
It really was.
It involved different
Something.
characters and stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when people say they want more Mass Effect, they want more.
I believe they have said that this one will be a continuation of
Right.
Shepard story?
the Shepard story.
Okay.
It'll be Darth Shepard now.
But the but all they release is like a picture. It's like Mass Effect will return.
Somehow Shepard returned.
But the other part of this is that so they've contracted BioWare, I guess, not contracted as in made smaller.
Constricted.
Laying off a bunch of the people, and so they laid off a bunch of people, and then they also did this thing that seems particularly weird. Is that a bunch of people from BioWare, because and this actually this makes sense, and I understand that this seems like a good idea actually.
Part of this makes sense.
That when you're building, you don't need everybody in the game, everybody in the company for the entirety of the game.
Correct.
Right. The there's
different
some
stages, different people
needs different
needed.
time. Yeah, different stages. And so some of the people who weren't working on, who were available, were loaned.
Yeah.
Or sort of, I think in government you would call it like seconded.
Yeah.
But they would be they were loaned to other parts of EA to that needed some support.
And in a way, that's a great thing for a worker, because it means I have the stability of the job that I already have back with my original company, and now I get to experience what it's like to work at a new place, gain new experience, new perspectives, new ideas.
And it's one of the advantages that somebody like a big company like EA can do.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not making people swap teams from week to week and being disorienting, because we've had those stories,
Right.
Oh yeah.
where that's not
Org charts constantly
where
changing.
you've seen studios break apart because of that. The core idea of, hey, we have some people here who've got some time, we're going to move them over here so they can work on a thing that is currently being in progress, so that they can go back to this space and work on it when they're needed, is a good way of using people's time and hours.
Yeah.
But then this idea of
Until-
and then they're like, we're laying off a bunch of people at BioWare, and incidentally, the people who we loaned to other parts of EA were also just eliminating the jobs that they had.
Yeah, so they can't go back.
So you can't go back.
Yeah.
So
you still have a job, which is, I guess, a little bit better than just being laid off out of nowhere, but is still not, exciting in the same way that you've been, a cave-in has happened to you.
Well, I mean, that would be.
But presumably that person, was hired and was working for BioWare
because that's where they wanted to work.
and excited to work on Mass Effect.
Yes.
And they were like, hey, we need you to work on Madden for the next 2 weeks or the next month while we get things. And they're like, sure, whatever, I can do that. And then it's like, no, you actually work for this other company now.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's like, what?
Like, what if you?
When did I get transferred?
BioWare is based out of Edmonton, Alberta, and EA has studios all over the place as well. And it's not to say that, BioWare is not known as EA Edmonton, right? It's like BioWare is still BioWare. So whatever other studios that EA owns that are not just EA North, EA West, or EA Malibu, or whatever the fuck, they could have gone to some other random place and been like, you're going to be here for a month and a half. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So 6 months, I'm going to move over here, going to do this job, and then I'll go back to the freezing hellscape of Edmonton, Alberta. And now you're like, no, you live in France now, dude. Like that, you're done. You live here now.
I feel like we would have heard a bit more
or you're
about
losing
that.
your job. And I feel like we might still
Well, yeah, but
you have
again,
to gather that
that's-
information. But
I'm not. I don't know that I want to just assume that, because there are plenty of jobs that do work remote.
sure.
And
maybe that's what a lot of these
are,
are, right? Is they could just be remote working jobs, and that was an easy thing to to get on being able to do. We like people being able to work remote. I just think that it's interesting because it's like you could have ended up moving to another place temporarily to do a thing, living in an Airbnb for 6 weeks, thinking that I'm going to do this piece of work, and now it's like now I live here. Now I have to build a life in this place, or else I have to quit this job and try to find a job somewhere else.
Sure.
Or
I just don't want to speculate that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's
fair.
It does remind me a little bit of Assassin's Creed again, but
In Assassin's Creed, you got to work remote.
the original developer or the original director of the first Assassin's Creed, I believe, was Patrice Desailly, who worked on the original one, and I think on the second one, had some disagreements with Ubisoft and left, started his own company. A year or two later, that company got bought by Ubisoft, and suddenly he found himself working for Ubisoft. So
Right, yeah.
you can sort of end up in the situation where it's like, hey, no, I quit you.
Yeah.
And due to like the way that sort of contracts work, you're like stuck working for them again.
Yeah, it's it sucks because being in that position, because now also think of the studio that has these workers that they might have thought that these are seconded workers and that they might be there for a year or maybe or for however long they were expecting to have them for 6 months, and it's like this is now your employee, especially if that was like a thing that EA. If Brass at EA are talking to Brass at BioWare and they're saying we're going to release all these jobs and we're going to basically tell these people it's like you can't come back to these jobs, they don't exist anymore, and EA's like, yeah, it's no problem, we'll reach out to the other studios and let them know that these people work for them now, and they just do all that, and the other studios are like, this was never intended to be a hire for longer than 6 months.
And that's the thing that doesn't. If you want to speculate something, I would speculate that doesn't make them a permanent hire for that company necessarily.
But it must be I'm just saying it would be a weird feeling to be that studio that is like either had been a part of the negotiation just to have a temporary employee and find out that you're getting this can be made a permanent thing.
Yeah.
Or what if they didn't find out?
That's not permanent.
So
those are going to be the jobs that they lay off first.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
If they're even if they're thinking that, because if they were only supposed to be there for 6 weeks or maybe 6 months, and this has happened, say you have 3 more months left in that position.
Yeah.
That job might not exist in 3 months.
Yeah, because somebody's got to pay. Like the money's got to go into that job from somewhere.
Oh, this industry is terrible.
Yeah. Pretty bad.
We should maybe dig deeper though.
Yeah. We'll probably see more stories about this soon, I imagine. It's a very interesting thing to have happened.
Also, I hate the stuff where they're like, we've laid off half the team, but that will in no way affect Mass Effect 4. And it's like...
So what are you telling me about Mass Effect 4?
It's like either, what are you telling me about Mass Effect 4? What are you telling me about the team?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
don't pretend. Like, it sucks. Just say that, like, we had to do this. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But like to say that those people weren't, I don't know.
Well, it depends, right? Like they weren't needed currently for Mass Effect 4 because we moved them over to this other thing, which means Mass Effect 4 could be in a stage where that's not currently affecting it.
Well, also
in that way. I mean, I'm not like it's still going to affect things. So every time you have a shuffle like that, you affect the morale of the people around you. It's
the last thing I remember from the little tiny bit of insider information that I've had from BioWare is that the Dragon Age team and the Mass Effect team were 2 separate teams within BioWare. So if what's gone on here is people who were done work on Veilguard are predominantly the people who got, and we don't know this, but if they were predominantly the ones who got seconded or laid off or whatever, then that would make sense that they're like, it's not going to affect Mass Effect because the bulk of the Mass Effect team is still intact. That could be what's happened here, but who knows? Because it's been years since I know how any of that worked.
They've moved people from the Mass Effect 4 team off, and they've moved other people around. Just because you have different teams doesn't mean you don't have people who jump back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. Let's go on to Helldivers 2.
Yes.
So
many patches.
They have a shovel.
The best patch notes. The best patch. The Helldivers does the great thing. We've talked about it before, but they do a great thing where they have extensive patch notes, which are often amazing. Mm-hmm. But they also add things in the game without telling anybody. Mm-hmm. And often, in fact, deny that they've added it to the game.
Because it wasn't in the patch notes. What are you talking about?
Look, you just never found the shovels. It's not that they've just mystically appeared one day.
I've never picked up a shovel in Helldivers 2. Let me just tell you that right now. So
I've never picked up a shovel in my life. I tell other people to do the digging. Other people help me bury the bodies.
So, like, for instance, in January... there was a new UI thing that would pop up occasionally saying space-time fluctuation indicator.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which would glow. And nobody told anybody what that was. Like there was no information from Space Command or the devs about what that was.
It was just a thing that was in the game.
Yeah. And then
Cool.
it changed to dark energy accumulation meter, which would come up occasionally.
That's worrying. Sure. Yeah.
And then, so anyway, stuff is, and then apparently there's the
Merida singularity.
Merida singularity, which is a wormhole that the players created last year. Talking about, collaborative online things.
Yeah.
Helldivers has a really interesting, like, the game itself is like a 4-player squad-based thing.
Right.
But there's this sort of meta narrative that happens over top that depends on how many people are playing and
Well,
how
yeah.
they're doing, or it might not, because they can also just make up stuff.
Sure, but in a way, I mean that's fun, right? Like sometimes the meta narrative that players create in like on Reddit or on forums or whatever can go a long way to also fleshing out how people approach the activity, right? Blazeball's a really good example of that.
One other things in these that I love about these patch notes, some great quality of life fixes. Players can now emote once while they're in the air, like while falling. It doesn't help you. It doesn't stop you from
but
falling.
I agree. Like while you're falling,
It allows you
you've
to-
got like some time. You should be allowed to emote.
Just
Yeah.
shrug the ground.
Yeah. Just as a treat, just one.
Apparently, gas weapons have been made more powerful. The duration of gas weapons and spray weapons has gone up from 6 to 10 seconds. So a
Ooh.
lot, because apparently they were sort of like falling behind and
Yeah.
stuff. The Ministry of Humanity has added a clause to its principles of correct posture for safe lifting, now allowing Helldivers to jog while carrying two-handed items such as barrels and SCF artillery rounds.
I'm sorry, safe
See,
lifting.
all of the like they do the thing where like most of the things in the patch notes are actually in-game things that have changed.
Yeah.
Helldivers are now authorized to deploy grenades and stratagems while leaning out from an FRV.
So basically saying that when you were in an FRV, you couldn't use grenades. Now you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
but
more
you're now
video
authorized to.
Yeah.
more video games should have animations of people lifting things safely
Yeah, I agree.
for everyone to learn.
Lift everything with your knees.
Yeah.
Can you lift this dog with your knees?
Anyway, but yes, the other thing is that it wasn't mentioned in the patch notes is a shovel, which is it's like a trench shovel.
Oh, so it's not like a poop shovel.
I mean,
I feel like they
can be
need
used
them.
however you want, I guess. But
They're very specific. They're short. They're little trowels usually for camping.
But anyway, this is found. It's not part of your loadout. You can just find it on certain maps. And yeah, you can dig with it and do things. And
It would be awful if you just could find a shovel and you couldn't dig with it.
you couldn't dig. You can.
Yeah,
dig
that
with
would
it.
be like.
The
No.
landscape was not deformed.
But yeah, what's super neat about this is, obviously people are like dig or rock and stone or diggy hole, which is the I think it's, I forget who did that song, but it's an excellent song. But anyway, so people are enjoying the thing, but there's this idea that perhaps there could be a collaboration with Deep Rock Galactic. Now, what I love though is like people in the chat in the comments are like, rock and stone is sort of a meme.
Yeah.
And Nelson, who wrote this story, was sort of like, Deep Rock Galactic, blah blah blah. But when I searched for images on this, I actually found that about a year ago, the Deep Rock Galactic devs were tried to get the attention of the Helldivers developers in order to do a collaboration, and they ended up streaming themselves playing Helldivers for a while.
Right.
And apparently, the Helldivers dev slid into their DMs, and they started talking.
Yeah.
We don't know what came out of that, but I mean, I'll say one, Deep Rock Galactic has a long tradition of adding all sorts of cool extra little like DLC or extra different levels or different cosmetics and stuff. Like they have a very sophisticated system for like they add tons of cosmetics all the time. So like adding cosmetics that would line up with Helldivers would not be an issue.
Right.
You fight big, all sorts of big bugs and also robot things. Like they're Deep Rock Galactic, you primarily are fighting like bugs and stuff, but then they've added a thing recently that there's like a rival mining team that's all robots.
Right.
So again, robots and insects are the things that you fight in Helldivers. Like there's a lot of synergies that make sense.
Right.
So either and having just I was just recently playing Dave the Diver, which did some amazing collaborations with Balatro and
so many things.
Balatro and Dredge and Potion
Godzilla
and Godzilla, things that you wouldn't think would necessarily collaborate that well, and they really integrated it well. I can totally imagine either both of these or one or the other or some combination of them coming together, and I think it would be great.
I was having a conversation the other day with Heather where I'm like, there's this like long-standing thing of borrowing light where you're like Dead Cells. I noticed Ted did this where I started playing Dead Cells because it was on Game Trials on the Switch, and
it has
like 9 different games Easter eggs built into it. There's a Hollow Knight one and a Blasphemous one and Hyper Light Drifter and like all these kind of things. And I'm like, I'm sure that when you go talk to another dev like that to say, hey, can we put an Easter egg of your game in our game? Can we somehow have a little like a nod or a wink or whatever to that kind of thing? And if the other devs, when it's all indies, a lot of indies, you get to know each other. And you're like, oh yeah, I know so-and-so from whatever. I'll talk to them and see if they are cool with that because we make similar style of games. And then for me, it was like when I saw that, I was like, oh, these guys must be cool. They must make a really good game. They must be really appreciated by the other developers. They must be people that the other developers like. These guys might even be like the developers, right? Like where it's like they're beloved, that kind of idea. You start to make a lot of assumptions about the fact that other people's light has being included in this thing, and you're borrowing that light to shine on your own game, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've made a lot of assumptions that I have no idea are true just from the fact that all these other games I've really enjoyed all have Easter eggs in this one game.
And I mean, it's that thing, people, you get a lot with like content creators. I've heard it about people talking about us, but I get it with other people too, where like 2 content creators that you're like, they like each other.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's exciting, right? You're like, that's really cool.
It's like, I don't care about their personal lives, obviously, but it makes me happy that it's like they're sort of that there's some collaboration behind the scenes.
I mean, I see it in the comments and stuff all the time where people want to know if we watch certain thing or if we're aware of certain thing or if we're aware of certain content creator.
Or reference like Homestar or people will show up on the PPR and will be like, you 2 know each other? Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I like and I like
it's just like getting a Batman Superman crossover essentially, right?
And so it's as a consumer of stuff, it's neat to see that it's like, oh cool, that the Dave the Diver and the Balatro developers at least
had a conversation at one point.
Like each other enough to do this collaboration. That's fun.
They both respect each other enough too, right?
I want it's like you want people that you like to like each other. Mm-hmm. It's like, so it's fun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing with like, if Deep Rock Galactic actually does or did manage to get Helldivers, if this is actually a nod towards that for some reason, I think that'll be really interesting. If we see more of that later on.
So to be clear,
we don't know.
There's no indication that this is actually a collaboration.
As far as we know, it's just a shovel.
Sometimes a shovel is just a shovel.
Just a shovel.
Yeah.
You can dig in the ground with it, which is great. It's good that it has an interaction and a use. Right now it's just a shovel. Maybe it will discover something. Maybe there's something worth digging for. Maybe they just put it in for fun. The other thing that got mentioned in that story was Mythic Quest. Because literally within their storyline, they have a thing where they're like, "Oh, we just decided to stick a shovel in. Won't that be a great idea?"
Yeah,
and then
Poppy
people
throws a fit, right?
Yeah, but then people start digging with the shovel. It's great, but they do what was brought up in the screenshot of that thing of people start writing out words and doing things. So where is this going to lead at some point?
Right.
Exactly where you think, probably. Or maybe everybody who plays Helldivers 2 is a beautiful jelly bean of a person and they will never draw a penis. That's probably not true. That's definitely gonna
Anytime
be
you allow any kind of
somebody always draws one.
Any kind of user thing.
It's just 2 circles and a cucumber. It's not hard. Unless you draw it that way.
And then finally, yay! Loot boxes are back in Overwatch 2.
That's what we were missing the whole time.
That's right. Loot boxes are back. It's not a good thing, dude.
Time for me to reinstall my copy of
Overwatch
2.
you had to insert the video in where he's like so excited about it.
And like, I know you have to be excited because it's a PR thing, but boy, I hate when people are like, "Man, this thing's back." It's it's like saying, "Ooh, it's tax season. Tax season's back."
You notice I didn't do that in front of a live studio audience.
Well, no, I mean, we've all agreed that doing stuff in front of a live studio audience is just not a great thing anymore.
But Jesus, imagine having
definitely not that.
Imagine having an E3 type situation. I would have actually
be like that Avengers
or like at the Game
panel
Awards
where they all booed.
If at the Game Awards somebody came out and was like, we're pleased to announce new things for Overwatch, throwing to Jeff Keighley being like, throw to my good friend, whatever the fuck your name is from Blizzard, tell me about Overwatch 2. It's like, oh, we're really excited, new improvements to thing. Is like, hey everybody, guess what? Loot boxes are back, and everybody in the industry and the audience is like, I don't know if we're supposed to clap or not to that because we're supposed to clap to it, aren't we?
Because you know what? There's going to be a lot of cheering.
We don't want it.
Hey, we're going to talk about this game and some new features for it, and then you'll get the loot boxes are back.
Yeah.
And either you get silence, which I think would just be hilarious.
Oh sure.
Or actual booing, which would be even better.
Or people laughing.
Yeah, actually,
people being like, "Oh, that's
really
that's a
okay.
funny joke."
Funny.
Yeah.
No, we're serious.
And then the booing starts. Yeah.
So yeah, they're and yeah, as people in the chat and I think Graham talked about in the story, they're like, and we've got a thing to make it make sure it's fun for everybody. We're making it very transparent about the percentages or the chances of getting different things and stuff. And it's like,
why are you doing
that's
that?
also because of international laws.
Well, yeah, but if we say that we're doing it as if we intend to do it, then it doesn't sound like we're being forced to do it. Even
Because that was
definitely being forced
if I
to
recall, I believe that was originally why loot boxes got pulled from Overwatch, was that China required you to disclose all the percentages, and they chose to remove them rather than do that.
There's a period of time because there's been over the past several years, there's been a lot of fighting over legally whether or not loot boxes are gambling,
right?
How to if they have to have their percentages and whatnot. And over that period of time, because mobile games have a lot of those kinds of mechanics, you could watch certain mobile games either conform to those rules or pull that game from specific regions so they didn't have to.
Yeah.
So now they have, and battle passes. I mean, so Overwatch 2 has been running on a battle pass system, which people have opinions about that.
Yeah.
So now they're going to be running. They're giving the battle pass.
Yeah.
But then the battle pass will get you loot boxes.
Yes.
So there's a certain amount of loot boxes you can get for free, or by like playing the game, and then if you get the battle pass, you get more loot boxes.
I don't like if the idea is that a battle pass makes you more money as the developer, publisher, whatever, right? If your game makes you more money because it has loot boxes in it or it has battle passes in it, one or the other.
But what if both?
What if both, right? And that is what I'm wondering here is I'm like, is that what they're actually trying to be like, wait, so what if we actually put both in the game? Will that be a better, will we make more money off of that somehow? Can you buy loot boxes in the game?
I don't think you can.
If they just
in
come
this
with
one.
the battle
I think
pass.
it's with the battle pass or with playing.
It's hard, and it's hard for me
but
though.
not sure.
It's hard to know because it's like at least like with a battle pass, at least it's like it's steady money, but it's always going to be the same amount of money. Whereas with loot boxes, you'll get people who have gambling addictions who will always want to keep opening more and more and want to keep buying them, or filming stunts for the internet, so they'll buy $1,000 worth of loot boxes or whatever. But and that's that kind of thing where it's like, what is actually making you more money? Because everybody was definitely on the side of loot boxes until all of a sudden they couldn't be anymore.
Well, I think there's a certain fun to, if we divorce this whole thing from the money aspect, I think there is a certain fun flavor to an RNG mechanic.
Yeah. Okay.
And finding a thing that you don't know what's inside it necessarily. A surprise.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I know. Can be fun. There are games that do that do have these kinds of mechanics, but they're not tied to stuff. I'm pretty sure, like, I think Xenoblade has like the sword kind of loot drop thing. And usually,
but it's not tied to you spending money on it.
Yeah, I mean, usually we do refer to those things more as loot drops than, say, loot boxes. But essentially, they're not that different. Like Kirby's Forgotten Land has that kind of RNG mechanic where you're constantly trying to pick up the little gotcha balls to complete a thing. But there's also a way for you to kind of just go spend some money to try to get, in-game money to try to like get the rest of it out of machines, right?
Yeah, Yoshi's Crafted World had that.
Yeah,
too.
there's certain balances you can do. Loot boxes are never balanced for that, right? They're not set up to be a spend some money, get this thing going. If you've already acquired this or acquired so many of it, you won't get that one anymore, or you can trade stuff in to try to get like a better one. They're always driven in the idea of spend more money. Spend money until you get the thing. Sure, you can probably get some free ones by doing thing, but really spend more money to get thing.
Like, so Isendai says something interesting that someone in the comments of the video said, this change is purely positive. And here's how. You can't actually buy the loot boxes. Okay. And Overwatch 2 replaced very low value rewards on the battle pass. Now, I would have no idea what they've replaced. I don't play the game. I also didn't write the story. And I have no way of knowing whether the thing is a very low value reward or not. The story that we would have cribbed this from, that we would have taken our story from, clearly did not mention anything about that. Oh, it's only things that people just hate getting from the battle pass anyway because it's a very low value thing. So sticking something that's like, you might still just get that shitty thing that you didn't want, but now you actually have a chance of getting something cool because it's a loot box. That is a pure positive thing. Pulling, a crappy, like dentist toy kind of thing with like, oh, this really cool legendary skin. It's like that is a net positive.
Yes. The word loot box has nothing but negative connotations to it.
There's
Again,
that.
That's why we had them try to call them surprise mechanics at one point.
Yeah.
So
and also
it just has the weight of that regardless of whether or not this is a positive change or not.
And
you can't say, oh, loot boxes are back as if it's a good thing, because that doesn't sound like a good thing.
Well, and because we also have to deal with the fact that it was such a bad scene for so long that having them back, like in this situation, right? Like saying, oh, loot boxes are coming back to Overwatch, to Overwatch game. It's like, is that going to encourage everybody to put them back in? If they do, are they going to put them in the same way where they replace low value rewards with a chance to win high value rewards?
Trying to sort of
rehabilitate the reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the reputation gets better because like, oh, loot boxes are actually a cool thing to have now. Like, that would be great. That would be fantastic if that's what happens everywhere. But it does definitely feel like What if all we're doing is rehabilitating the image so we can get you to start gambling again?
And that's the other thing, right? There's not enough. There's, I want to say consumer trust, but like the average consumer doesn't pay attention to the news this hard. But on a hardcore audience level, that trust has been broken for so long, and that kind of trust level to get back takes way longer to get back than it does to break.
Yeah.
So this isn't like well, we've made loot boxes positive again, because you're one company. You're not going to be the only place that uses loot boxes, so you don't have control over how other people use loot boxes either. But even if you were to maintain the positive aspect of that, you wouldn't be able to maintain it long enough to gain back trust, I think, to just be like, aha, in 2 years they're bad again.
I mean,
and everyone will fall for my evil mustache twirling scheme.
If there's a monetization strategy tied to this, to be like, here's what we'll do first is we'll do this with the loot boxes to get everyone to love them, to rehabilitate the image, and then we can start doing these other things over time, and then we can get back to where we were before, and then everyone will have already feel better about them. It's horse armor, right? We've hated the idea of horse armor. Like, people got viciously violent, just angry about horse armor, and now we buy horse armor all the time.
And how long ago was horse armor?
It was 20 goddamn years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just got to do it.
It takes a very long time to do that kind of change.
Also, the other aspect of this that I wanted to quickly make a note of, at the end, it says you will, the idea, as what Peter said, you might get a graffiti spray that you don't want.
Yeah.
And the picture I used for that was May, I
think it's May, yeah.
Graffiti of her like laughing. I would like to just point out that I was not implying that May is not a good character.
Yeah, I thought I'd see more people
right.
who would be upset that it wouldn't matter on the characters saying a character you don't like and then a character showing up, right?
What were you implying, Paul?
Well, it was that particular graffiti one was like, it was like
she's laughing
at you.
She's laughing at you for what you won.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue that Paul wasn't implying anything. He just picked a graphic. Graham might have been implying it. He's not here to defend himself, so Graham hates May.
I also legitimately tried to find. I was like, because again, I don't play Overwatch, but I was trying to find. I was like, give me a list of the worst. Like, what are generally considered to be the worst sprays, the worst graffiti sprays in Overwatch? Like, there's got to be like a list, a ranking, or ranking. And the only thing I could find were all these lists of like what are the worst in terms of difficulty to get.
That would make sense.
Not the ones that everyone has and
more
hates.
of a rarity kind of thing. Yeah.
And I'm sure people, you know what? In the comments to this video, tell me the worst spray, the worst graffiti, the one that like the one that is like fugly and everybody has and everyone hates. Tell me the worst one.
Overwatch 2, weirdly not going away for some reason, and Paul will need to know this information.
Exactly.
So you really need to tell us.
And then
Paul
I will
specifically
use that as a
what
meme
is
for
the
future.
worst character spray for Overwatch 2.
Ones that are particularly ugly or whatever. Anyway, and then the coming up, of course, was Summoning Salt, who, by the way, I was like, I saw that name and I was like, I know that name because
Me too.
Summoning Salt does really excellent
40-minute videos on a 3-minute speed run, yeah.
speed run breakdown videos. Is also a extremely talented speedrunner unto himself. And yeah, apparently Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is his particular oeuvre. And he broke... Now, I think I understand this correctly, that the 2 minute... Like, he broke this 2 minute...
Yeah, 1:59.97, I think it was.
Yeah, beating there. That's by the in-game clock.
Right.
Which apparently runs like 3 times faster than real time. So apparently it was actually closer to like a 45-second
Oh,
Huh.
cool.
thing.
Okay.
I don't know why they go by the in-game clock when it's like wrong, but
Interesting.
apparently,
That's neat. All right.
But
I mean,
but
if,
yes,
if everyone's going by the same clock, then it's still
yeah.
you're still going to know
I guess
who's
they usually,
faster or not.
I guess
right?
they usually go by in-game clocks and speedruns. But anyway,
Excuse
part
me.
of the reason why this took apparently over 75,000 attempts over the course of 5 years is that a lot of this depends on RNG, as in like what Mike Tyson does in the fight.
Oh,
Right.
Like he's
okay.
got he's got pauses and stuff. So and you can only hit him at certain times and things. So like it depends on what
Yeah.
RNG you get.
It's-
And the particular RNG that he got this time was like almost the best you can get. And it's like a 1 in 5,000 chance or whatever of getting
Right.
this particular combination of good rolls,
And-
basically.
Yeah, because it's not dependent on. Well, I mean, it's a little bit dependent on how you're doing skill wise in the game, but your speed time is going to be based on how fast the character you're opposed to is actually allowing you to do all your damage.
So that means that, on average, there should have if it was a 1 in 5,000 chance of being able to nail it, like to get the perfect RNG setup to do this, in 75,000 attempts.
It
That's
wouldn't even happen that often.
you would have had to have over 50 opportunities in 75,000 that might have actually happened for him, and didn't
Maybe.
actually do it.
And apparently,
Got close maybe, but didn't do it, right? Like,
according to his own evaluation, he was off the theoretical best given this RNG.
right.
The theoretical best he could have done. He was off by 7 frames.
Jesus.
Wow. Okay.
Because basically you have to do something like 20, I think it said 21 frame perfect moves. The theoretical best,
Yep.
like if you
TAS it?
if you TAS it and lock in the RNG to what the best RNG is, I think like a minute faster.
On the screen, minute faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's 59
whatever.
seconds. Wow.
So anyway, amazing job, and very, very interesting. I've heard Punch Out is like a weirdly interesting game. People talk about it how it's like more like a rhythm game than like a fighting game.
I would say that's accurate. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, what I also like, Summoning Salt himself, like a year ago, did another, because this particular, like another threshold or the previous attempt or the previous record break had happened about a year ago or something. And at that time, Summoning Salt, as you were saying, did like a 50-minute video about how impressive this other guy's move was.
Yes.
And how hard it is to do that.
Yeah.
Which is great because then he beat it himself a year later, and he already has a video talking about how hard it was for him.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to make another one because it'd be
It's
like,
like-
and I did better than that guy.
Yeah, all the stuff that guy had to do, I had to do that too, but better. Anyway, let's talk about some stuff that didn't make it into the episode. There's just a few things. Avowed is got some buzz right now. That's a new sort of first-person RPG that's coming out.
Okay.
The reason why I thought it was funny is because of so one of the things is when it first came out, or when it first was being announced and talked about, they were apparently targeting a 30 frames a second.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, because
on
they were
the Series X.
They wanted to put a whole bunch of really great visual effects, and they said on the Series X it's going to be 30 frames a second because it's going to have amazing visual effects. They've now changed that.
Yeah, they've said. They've said you can get up to 60 frames a second on the Xbox Series X. They're saying this article is like the use of can here is like doing a lot of work, but but my favorite part of this quote, my favorite part of this is later on in the same interview. They're talking about where's the talking about the various things they've had to do to make it get to that frame rate.
Oh, okay.
And the various things that are in the game and stuff.
The optimizations and stuff you'd have to do.
And
Okay.
this is Kerry Patel, who's the director of the game, had this great line: "You have to accept a little jank to do something fun and creative." I think.
Okay.
Which, when I first read that, I was like, haha, that's funny because he's saying, they're saying the game is going to be janky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But upon further thinking about it, I kind of respect that. Like, I think
Willing to be upfront.
you've got and I think I respect. I think I probably agree with that a little bit. That you got to accept a little. I'm just thinking about Alex is playing Stalker 2 right now.
Yeah.
And apparently, and lots of people are saying, we're saying sort of like it's kind of buggy and stuff.
This game's coming out like 3 times.
Avowed?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And longtime players of the Stalker franchise are like, of course it's buggy.
Yeah.
That's Stalker.
That's Stalker, yeah.
And this idea that there's sort of some jank is part of the charm. And it's not necessarily, there's obviously, it's a little janky and it's broken and not playable.
Right.
And it was poorly made.
Yeah.
There's a line there, but I respect, and this idea that it's this thing of maybe the impression I get is this idea of if you're not pushing the engine and the hardware and whatever and the design such that you end up with some jank, maybe you weren't pushing it hard enough, maybe you weren't coming up with interesting enough. If you're just doing all the stuff that everybody else has done and is already perfected, maybe you weren't doing anything interesting.
I mean, that's an interesting attitude to have.
It's one of those games where if you paid more money for the premium edition or whatever, it came out yesterday.
Oh yeah,
but it actually comes out on the 18th.
Yeah, I think people are streaming it and stuff already.
Yeah, there's definitely a earlier access kind of thing with it.
Now,
Excuse me.
Heather.
Yes.
Do you? I think of the three of us, you're the only one who actually watched the Sony State of Play.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was like, "Oh no, Paul's gonna ask me about Hollow Knight and chocolate cake, and I'm just not gonna be interested in doing that." But okay, State of Play, yeah.
Now I want to know about. Okay, let's not get distracted. Sony State of Play. What is the state of play for Sony?
For Sony, let's see. What do I remember out of that? Most of it's not really for me. So
Monster Hunter Wilds.
They did start with Monster Hunter Wilds. There was some stuff about horror games.
Which I like that you were saying that what is it? Wait, isn't Monster Hunter Wilds already out?
I can't tell if it's out or not because they keep talking about all the stuff that they plan to bring out later, but I think it's out soon. I think it's out this month. I honestly can't tell. There was
Dave the Diver.
Metal Gear Solid
Power Simulator.
Delta or something? Is that what the... I always want to call it Alpha because they use a triangle, but I think it's supposed to be Delta or something.
It's Snake Eater, isn't it?
They're doing a Snake Eater update?
They're doing a Snake Eater update for it?
Snake Bleeder.
Pretty sure it's Delta. The whole name of the game is Delta.
Oh, okay.
And they showed an ape from Ape Escape very briefly.
In Metal Gear Solid?
Not in it, just kind of at the end of it. But I think you said something when I brought that up as there was
Yeah,
promotion
I
years
think-
ago,
I
and I
think-
feel like that's maybe what they're hinting at or something.
yeah. I think it was Snake Eater or one of the Metal Gear Solid things had an Ape Escape promo where like it was like Snake, a bunch of apes have escaped. You must capture them.
Yeah, so like that could be interesting. Again, it's not really. To me, I brought that up because I know that Graham's really into Metal Gear Solid, and I was like, maybe that's the thing he'll care about. But then, yeah, Dave the Diver crossed over with Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Which I mean, as I said, there's already a bunch of.
It's Itchy Van's vacation holiday. Itchy somebody, Ichimaru. I don't know the
I
names
forget
of
his
these people.
name as well.
Here's a problem I have with Dave the Diver, a game I've never played, is their advertising of DLC. I swear they never use the term DLC. They're always just like, here, and here's like the expansion name. And I get confused because I'm like, wait, are you just doing a whole separate game? No, you're not. Okay, great.
Ichiban's
Ichiban's
Holiday.
Holiday.
Because
but
he's number one.
This does look pretty interesting because it looked like it had some like walk around street brawler
Like Final Fight type
2D
stuff.
kind of thing going on, and then like, and
Which
I'm
wasn't
just
part of
like,
the original
this
game.
Honestly, seems really interesting.
Dave the Diver, I like the game. There's a point where it has like too many mechanics in it.
I agree. This is
like-
why I think it's probably like, shouldn't this just be a separate game?
They like drop in.
But
Yeah, you at various points you drop into like side scroller for no reason.
yeah, I do think, because I know that Ian streams at home on twitch.tv/tiltyhouse. I do think it would be, because his streaming at home is almost exclusively the Yakuza series of games.
Yeah,
And
he's
I
on
do
6
think
right
it would
now.
be really funny if he had to play Dave the Diver because of this. That's just comical for me.
He might enjoy it even too. Who knows? But
Maybe
I would
don't
like
know.
that,
I
though.
feel like most people don't seem to enjoy anything.
I like the idea though of, because he is totally into that series, that having to take side tours into completely different genres that he doesn't enjoy playing, just to
Yeah.
have the whole oeuvre
Just
is
to,
very
like,
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think that would be funny. Yeah. Other than that, there's not like. I think Midnight Walk was maybe the only other game that. And the only reason, because it's I'm not sure if I want to play it or not because it's creepy looking. It's the same people who did.
Is it random?
Yeah,
Lost in
in Random.
Yeah.
And I really liked that game, even though it was really weird.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to play this game, even though it looks creepy as heck.
I mean, I definitely recognize the art style as that sort of similar.
How many zombie games did they show off during State of Play? Was it 6 or 12?
They said they were remastering Days Gone.
Not as many zombie games, but
And that has a
lots,
zombie
lots
thing.
of like post-apocalyptic.
A lot of post-apocalyptic stuff.
We've definitely been in a state of mind for the last 5 years. You're right.
Five Nights at Freddy's something spin-off. The Sonic Racing was kind of fun to watch because they have like a lot of like these gates you kind of go in through, and then you're in just like a different
Very like
place.
like the new Jack and Daxter, where you just kind of like end up in different spots.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, it's still not a game I'm probably going to play, but I did think it was interesting
It's very bright.
because it's to see the mechanics. Right?
I like.
It's still weird to see Sonic in a car.
I
But,
like the idea that they all come in out of portals, like they all started in completely different places, and we're just driving.
well, that's the thing. I don't know if you can end up in different places while you're playing, like if you're playing against other people, because they make it look like these portals just kind of get into the middle of the road.
right.
And
if-
so I do wonder if you can.
So like a shortcut.
Yeah, like see, there's like two portals kind of
So you can, like,
there,
choose
and that
which
one
one.
came in, and then now they're over here,
Oh.
and I'm like, honestly, it seems really neat.
it's just infinite racing.
Yeah, seems decent. Like that seems pretty neat.
And they just fly into the Twin Towers. I mean, I do like the idea of just, if you could end up in different worlds apart from where everybody else is racing, and then you come back to the like that, right? You come
Yeah.
back to the main raceway at the end, and everybody hooks up again at the end, depending on where they're at. So yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, trying to make a racing game look interesting off of a commercial, I think they did a really good job of it.
Yeah, that looks deep.
no, it's cool. Very very colorful.
I'm into it.
And
yeah.
seems not like it's too fast, right? Like it's not like stuff's flying by you way too fast. It's like no, it's just fast enough to actually.
Yeah,
be able to
I am
race.
curious
That's
though,
why
because
Sonic's in
like
the car. Slow 'em down.
Exactly.
in when I like Mario Kart's really the only racing game I've really played. You kind of want to try to come up behind people, throw shells, and do whatever. And I don't
Yeah.
know what item things they do in Sonic Racing, but like if you end up both diverging into different portals, I assume there's going to be like a thing of ideally you want a specific place to go because maybe it's a shorter track.
Right.
In the same way that you want to try and find a shortcut. But like if people go through different portals, like how do you throw your equivalent shell at them if there are any? Maybe there's not. Maybe it's purely just
I mean,
racing.
It might be
They
based
do that
on
now, right? They make racing games where nobody can throw things at each other.
It might be a thing. Like it might
Well,
be
I
a
don't
thing.
know. I only play Mario Kart.
It's true though, right?
I don't think you're
the-
supposed to throw things at people on like a set of Corsa.
If you if you did a thing where it was like everyone's racing along on the main like the main track, let's just say the one that you start on that track, and you're playing 8 people, and then all of a sudden the 2 portals appear, and you end up going through one of the portals, and somebody else goes through another portal. I assume that what happens is that you'll be racing along on your own separate tracks at that point, right? But the distances you're covering, the distance from portal to portal is going to be roughly the same. So the amount of time that you're spending, even if you're falling behind, it's like you have 1,000 meters to cover from one portal to another, and that might be how it is like, and then whoever's like gets to the next portal, even though you're racing in 2 different areas, it might branch again, and you might end up in like it's only you and another person who are now racing against each other in that one world, and then it starts to bring them back together. And it's like every kilometer or so of ground covered, you were going through another portal, and it's either splitting you apart or bringing you back together.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Who knows?
But it looks interesting. I mean, I really liked watching the dinosaur back being used as a
Yeah, that
trade.
seems dope.
Like set wise, stuff looks cool. It still looks weird to watch Sonic in a car. I feel like he looks less weird on a hoverboard for some reason. I'm like, yeah, that seems like something he'd do. But a car just seems odd. And I'm like, I know he's just playing fair to be with everybody else, but this is wrong.
What you don't know is it's a pedal car.
It's like,
That's how they draw the.
It's not going to be like a Flintstones car.
yeah, it's
where
like a
just-
Flintstones car.
Yeah.
No, that would be too good. See. So yeah, as we often talk about these with these things, it's a lot of this game exists.
Yep.
Which is cool, but when more info comes out about it, then we will more attention. The little bit that we talked about for Overwatch with the loot boxes and stuff, that was part of this larger. Blizzard had a special like Overwatch event, Overwatch showcase, Overwatch 2 showcase for season 14 or 15, I think, of Overwatch, which clearly they're not doing seasons by year.
I don't think anyone does because I'm always confused by how we're so far into seasons.
And the other thing that they announced is the next 2 heroes who are going to be coming to Overwatch. Freya? I don't know. And Aqua.
with an E, that's Freja is probably Freya.
Freya. Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah.
And
Aqua, you say.
and Aqua. Yeah. So Freya will be joining season 16. That's what we're going into.
Agua.
Oh, no. Sorry. Season 15 is what we're going into. She'll be joining in season 16, but there will be a demo. There'll be some testing with her in season 15.
Do you think like in Overwatch there's just like a kind of break room cafeteria space where someone puts up a clipboard, or they're like, oh, if you want to be in season whatever, please sign your name here so we know how many
Or-
like, volunteers we need.
Or it's like, in Mario, because with the like, you do like the Mario Tennis and stuff. Because it's like a lot of the levels and like the matches in Overwatch can have mixed, like there could be like bad guys and good guys on one team helping to like do whatever you're supposed to do. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's, well, I think they couch it all in like it's like a training thing. But anyway, so this this new character Freya, and that makes sense. That would be their name.
Because they're Danish.
Yeah, they are Overwatch's most renowned search and rescue operative, dedicated to saving lives. But after Overwatch was disbanded, Freya turned to bounty hunting. She is meant for players who love a challenge, and she is recognized internally as one of the highest skill heroes in the game.
By who? By the staff?
By people who play her.
Oh, I
obviously,
see.
yeah.
Okay,
People are
fair.
like, yeah.
All right.
So get good, I guess, is the answer.
It's generally the default, yeah.
She's got like a crossbow that shoots stuff, which, as is the case in these kind of games, it's like, I mean, crossbows are cool, but would not a gun be better?
Well, I mean, if you're going to go crossbow, you usually could go double crossbow. You got two hands.
I mean,
Uh,
energy crossbow.
And then her ultimate are bolas that ensnare the enemy, pull in nearby enemies or nearby allies, and then explode. Which, again, kind of defeats the purpose of a bolt. Like, the bola was supposed to be like it's like a way to capture somebody.
Yeah.
If you're just going to, like, throw the bola at them and then blow it up, wouldn't just a missile be better? Anyway,
Right.
I'm not going to go into the logic of...
I mean, if you throw it at somebody's head or their neck, you could choke them out. Like,
and then this guy, Aqua,
Oh, yes.
we basically don't...
Waterbender.
We know nothing about him.
Aqua.
But yes, his name is Aqua. It's
He's got a spearish looking thing.
Strong back, power
Yeah.
twink. Look at that. Good stuff.
I like. Yes, he's described as a Chinese water wielder. I do like.
Again, waterbender.
I love the. Blizzard hasn't said anything about his role, but the character silhouette certainly aligns with the damage or support character, which I like that's how. So the other thing, this is the case. This is like when we talk about like Sims or other games where I'm like, I don't play these games, and so I just find out about them through news articles and stuff. One of the things that I found out about while reading this news article is this guy Aqua will be the 44th hero
There's that many
in
people
Overwatch,
in Overwatch?
which I thought there was like a dozen people in Overwatch.
Yeah, I thought there was like maybe 10. I mean, I feel like I knew that number was wrong, but
They could be
I
an idol
guess.
group almost.
Oh, actually, you know what? I think putting all of the Overwatch heroes together to do like a AKB48 thing would be really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd watch that.
So there are currently 42, I guess, and then this Freya's going to be 43, and Aqua will be 44.
I guess you have. I mean, you're not star for choice. Like, how many does League have? At least
League is-
60, right?
League is
Like
over 100.
600.
It's over 100 now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. League has got
Jesus.
1,000.
Now I think with League though, I think there's a limited number of those that are actually like meta relevant.
Ah, okay.
But
You can play as anybody that you want, but just don't.
yeah,
Otherwise,
they did like
people
a champion a month for a while.
People
yeah.
will get really, really angry at you, and that means you can't play a video game because people are mad at you.
No, I don't think anybody actually in the crew plays Overwatch.
Not anymore. No.
Like I know there was a period
People
of
were
time
playing
where
it for a
people were
while.
into the first Overwatch because we did a whole
Fucking
Commodore
merch line.
Commodore Hustle thing and stuff about it. Like people were into it briefly.
I don't think people really got
But,
into Overwatch 2 too much though.
Definitely
don't
didn't get
think- I
Overwatch
don't-
shirts.
I don't think anyone's even
be just a little
I,
bit.
Little
it's
salty.
Not, it's not a game I hear people talk about in the crew.
It's true.
The
And I just kind of feel like if somebody was really into it, there'd be like a stream of it.
I mean, I think they played it on like the one more a few times, like for a while.
Overwatch 2?
No, like original Overwatch.
Yeah,
Too many
no.
gap filler. Too many.
But that's not what we're talking about.
But the other thing which was sort of touched on in the story about Overwatch was the new skins. So there's a bunch of Chinese themed skins that are coming out.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's also going to be a whole line of like magical girl skins that they're going to be releasing, which are, pretty undeniably
Yeah,
adorable.
You can't. Yeah, I have to see them now. You can't just bring that up. Like,
All right. Where are they? Here we-
Oh, they are like idol girls. Doki watch Juno.
There's the Doki Watch Juno, and she's got like little friend dolphins
you
that
gotta
like
have,
fly
like,
around with her.
you gotta have like a little mascot character with you usually.
Yeah, something you can make people buy in the store.
In different colorways.
Oh yeah,
Makes sense.
that's very Princess Tutu.
Yeah, including evil version.
Ah.
And then
Do you like the
there's
It's like that's a precure. Yep, you're right.
I mean, Precure's like a very long running.
I don't know which character this is even supposed to be. Oh, that's weird. Right. Good. Stupid.
And she has a little mascot character as well.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. They're getting mascot characters. I think Mercy is getting this gun,
That Rainbow Bright would have been into.
the Rainbow Bright gun. Yeah.
That's not bad.
So, anyway, I mean, when it comes to character skins, Blizzard does know what they're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
they've done some really nice ones.
Yeah, I won't fault them for you hire good artists.
This is sort of video game adjacent because it's used for a lot of stuff. Discord's adding the ignore ability.
Oh yeah, I kind of briefly saw a thing about
Which-
that.
I love the way this is like, so like the headline for this article is like, how to ignore people in Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's like, instead of blocking somebody, you can ignore them, which doesn't do anything on their end. There's no indication that anything has changed,
Right.
but just their messages don't show up.
It's like being muted, I guess, in a way.
Yeah,
But
a little mark shows up saying like they've sent you 50 messages or
Sure.
however many messages they've sent you, but they don't show up on your thing. But they don't ever get informed that you aren't receiving their messages.
Right.
Right.
But I like the way it's like, how can I possibly ignore people on Discord?
Yeah.
It's like,
Have-
I
They're
mean,
just
before
always
this,
there.
you just do it the way that you were doing it in real life.
Yeah. Roll your eyes and move on.
But I guess, it's good to have options as another way
didn't-
to deal
so
with this.
does
They'll build that into
means-
facial recognition at some point where you just be like, oh, Christ, you'll roll your eyes and it'll be like, oh, user ignored. Great.
Oh, you do that? No, it's gonna be more of a thing where it just dumps you out of Discord because it's like clearly you can't be in here
Yeah.
anymore.
You can't take this place.
Does that mean that? Because honestly, I don't know if I've actually ever blocked a person. Does that mean that if you block someone and they try to like send you a message, it tells them that they've been blocked? Like,
I mean, I'm always
is that the difference between ignoring and blocking? Is this just like you don't know?
Yeah. And like, yeah, if somebody gets like, blocked, they will, anyway. And also when you ignore someone, like, it's still like it shows you, and like it shows you how many messages they've sent, and you can click on them and show those messages.
Have I done that
So
to
like,
somebody?
whereas like blocking somebody, from what I understand, blocking somebody, like they can't send you messages. Whereas
Oh.
this, they can still send you the messages.
Okay, so it's like kind of like the difference between banning and shadow banning a person,
Kinda, yeah.
where they don't really know. They can kind of keep doing whatever, but yeah, okay, I guess.
Just going to scroll back
I'm-
to my last
I'm
block.
sure that is a feature that is useful for someone, even if it's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 2 ignored messages from a user on Discord. So I'm already ignoring people. I'm already ahead of the game.
All right.
Have you considered
Mm-hmm.
not going to Discord for a while?
No, it's just that, there's like that user and another one, and there's that other guy, and then there's that guy.
So if
You
you're
consider just
asking,
not going to
if you're
Discord
talking
for
to
a while?
Beige and he's not answering you, now you know why.
Yeah. I haven't blocked anybody in the Lure Discord, probably.
You belong to too many Discords.
I do, yeah, but it's where I get my good memes from.
I feel like a good break for you would be good.
Mm.
So here is some news that came and went for Marvel Rivals. This is one of these things where, so Marvel Rivals, they had this idea where, again, seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And what is typical, it's not uncommon in one of these, in a ranked game, to reset people's rankings at the season.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Marvel Rivals was like, hey, what if we actually do a rank reset mid-season as well?
Why would you do it mid-season?
Because it's like the like, when we first introduce new stuff, people will like be playing with it, and then they'll like figure it out, and then we'll like reset. And it's not like
like having a preseason and then having the actual season start.
I guess, except they're going to do a mid-season.
Yeah.
And when I say reset, it's not like a full reset. It's basically they drop everybody, I think in this case, like three or four ranks.
Oh, Jesus.
So it's just, so the idea is that if your character is like, if you don't play for a couple seasons, you'll fall down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But after after one season, you'll only drop down a certain amount. And so like,
Okay.
what if we do it?
Interesting.
What if we do mid-season ones as well? And as we talked about, a season is not a year.
No, it's usually like what I mean. It's different. It's like sometimes it's a few weeks, sometimes it's a couple months.
And in this case, they're talking about. I think a season in this case would be about like 3 months. So we're talking like your rank would drop every 6 weeks. And so people were like, some of us have, other
Children.
things we want to do.
Yeah.
Other than grinding out, because when you get higher ranks, you have to get high to a certain ranking to get some of the like that season's cosmetics and
Yeah.
all this sort of
Okay.
stuff that keeps the live service stuff running. Getting all the cosmetics and the fancy bits. And so people are like, hey, maybe don't do that because we don't want, we don't think you're correct in saying that that would be a beneficial thing.
Whereas I, on the other hand, think that they should be resetting everyone's ranking every 2 weeks because
Your monster?
I think it would drive so many people off of playing video games.
Why do you want this?
It would ruin so many live service games. We can get back to making games that are single player only, which is what we should be doing.
I don't think you understand that this won't work out the way you want it to. What you're suggesting is some sort of weird monkey paw thing.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
definitely not going to do what you think it will.
But in a way, I feel like that's players complaining that are like, I'm going to be losing my ranking. And right now what I do is when the new season starts, I play and I play and I play to drive my ranking up so I'm good for 3 months, and then I'll drop in occasionally and I'll play here and there, but mostly like I'm dumping a bunch of time into it to drive my ranking up so I can qualify for all the good rewards. I'm done doing that, and now I can not have to think about it too heavily for the next 3 months. I can just drop in and play a rare game when I want to. Oh, 3 months are up. It's time to grind again to get it to the point, and there I can walk away from it and like just that kind of like
Some
exercise.
people enjoy that.
Yeah, exactly. But
Why do you hate them?
if the company is saying, well, we think we'd like to make you do that every 6 weeks instead of every 12 weeks, then to me it's like, well, then the company clearly has contempt for their players. And what they want is they don't want the person who's a
They clearly
stinking
got
casual.
rid of this.
They're like, I don't want you filthy casuals who only want to play.
They clearly got rid of this. So stop being this way.
After this is so they released this. They made this thing on February 10th, I think. So that would be, on Monday. And then on Tuesday, they were like, after the release of Dev Talk 10 regarding season, they like posted it to their blog or whatever. Regarding the seasonal rank adjustment, we received a wealth of feedback from the community. A common concern was the pressure associated with having a rank reset every half season, which made participating in competitive mode less enjoyable. So next week's patch will not reset your rank, and mid-season patches going forward won't either. The cosmetic reward, which is in this case, the Blood Shield Invisible Woman skin, for reaching gold will be handed out and replaced with a new one, but everyone won't have to climb back up from bronze to earn it.
Okay.
The start of seasons will still have a rank reset.
I did like the suggestion Tamily had, where better yet, ranks reset at midnight in every time zone. I'm like, no, better. They don't reset. They get shuffled. They get randomly reassigned to different players.
No.
They're saying with the changes now.
Next week I bring a spray bottle.
The changes now reversed. Players are happy they were listened to. So people being like, I'm very impressed to see how they handled the criticism. I'm honestly shocked. A dev team made adjustments almost immediately. Unlike my teammates.
Or your government. And by the way, protest works. Keep that in mind. Yeah.
I mean, I would bet that, because as you were saying, change, dropping the, doing this idea of dropping everybody's rank every 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, the slow kind of deflation. Yeah.
I would assume that would be informing, they're like, okay, we're going to be doing it this way, and that means that that sort of informs how they're going to be developing the game, how they're going to be pushing out updates and stuff. And so, which I'm assuming this plan has been in motion for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, we've got planned out, the next 6 updates. We know generally what we're going to be doing, and we'll be on this new thing. Release this next day being like, oh, no, that wasn't good.
Yeah.
So I bet a bunch of people are like, okay, time to go back to the whiteboard. Yeah. Let's see how we're going to change it.
Everybody was in favor of this idea except the player base.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
They probably debated it a bunch internally and then were like, we know what's good.
Yeah.
And then, but there's that
we're in tune with our...
Sometimes you just have that, it's like, you have that blind spot, right?
And
it's just like, oh, crap, that is not going to work.
People don't make...
Back to the whiteboard.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, it's like we make our living off of giving these people a place to play a video game. So we don't want to make it a shitty experience. So somewhere baked into the planning for that was people saying, probably somebody did stick their hand up like, but wouldn't that be a shitty experience for our players? And then other people would have said, well, on the other hand, for this contingent of players, it actually is not a bad thing. And there is a reason to feel that is something we want to court more than players who might be upset about this, is that the other players who would benefit from this, that makes them more competitive, or that gives them something to actually to do whatever. It's like, right, so if they're coming at it with the right attitudes and feeling like the right reasoning, that they're like, oh no, that does make sense. Whoever waved a wand in front of their face and made them believe that, it's like, oh, okay, that does make sense. And you go along with it in all your planning. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, actually, no, way more people hate this idea.
And it's one of these things that's very possible. It's very possible that they have thought about, they did think out all the implications of this.
Yeah.
And it would be actually more fun.
Yeah.
because of what they have planned for how they're going to run this.
Yes.
But that's, but
they can't tell anybody.
And they're like, do we want to fight? Like, is this a battle that we want to fight? Like, to sort of, it's like, trust us, this will be better.
Yeah.
Eventually. But you have to trust that we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
necessarily
feel like
that.
if your justification is, hey, so we've thought about changing the rankings midway through, and that's all the information you give, but it's a thing you're planning to do soon. I would think you'd have to actually give some more information as to why you think this will be a fun idea.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you can, I don't think that's quite, it's not quite the same thing as we have a thing that's planned very far in the future. Trust us, it'll be fun.
Because I would have started with, we have an idea for something that you're not going to like, and here's what it is.
Well, but that's assuming they think people actually won't like it.
Yeah. Because PR, like marketing rules tell you, always take your best step forward, never let people know that you think it's a bad idea. But it's like, if you know it's a bad idea and you get ahead of it and say, we think this will be an unpopular idea, and we know why, because we did talk about it, but we have these are the reasons why we want to do this. And then you lay it all out, then you get to hear from people, like maybe in a more reasonable context.
Yeah. And I mean, you've probably been talking about it internally for weeks.
Yeah.
And, trying to message that whole sort of planning process into the public in a very short amount of time is difficult. So
I just don't think that they think that it was a bad idea so much as they thought
people would like it.
or that it would be fine or something, like people would maybe be neutral on it at worst, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that people
they miscalculated,
came back and immediately they were like, hey, okay, we're not going to do that because our feedback says you're not into that, right? Like, this isn't a thing they even actually ended up implementing and seeing how people liked.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to have those kinds of things happen.
Yeah. Then again, maybe the other scenario is like they were arguing about it back and forth, and then somebody was like, okay, fine, Dave, you know what? Tell everybody that's what you're going to do.
Yep.
And we'll see what the players say.
Yeah.
And then, the next day Dave comes in, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Good.
You were right.
I'm glad we had this conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, I remember them talking, there's a thing about like in SNL, I said like a behind the scenes thing. We were talking about like a sketch, somebody's running it, doing a sketch that just, they loved, but it just didn't work.
Yes.
And they're saying that Lorne put it in the dress to show them that it didn't work. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to sit here and watch this sketch, get no laughs whatsoever. It's just, rubbing the dog's nose in it.
Yeah.
Just to show you, so that you stop bugging me about this. Because
but there does come a point where like you can argue a thing back and forth. You can say you have statistics even for a thing back and forth, but there does come a point where sometimes the only real way to see if a thing works, especially if maybe you haven't done that, or other games maybe have done it and it seems like it works fine for them, but it's not necessarily going to work fine for you for different reasons, where you just have to do it. And
even if you have the stats that show that it's better, vibes matter.
Sometimes even if a thing should work,
vibes
and you
matter.
go to try to do it, it doesn't actually work that way. That's just, you can debate a thing forever and not get anywhere.
Anyway, speaking of debating everything forever and not getting anywhere,
This show.
This show. Thanks everybody for watching ChillPoint. Remember, let us know in the comments what the worst Overwatch 2 spray is.
Yeah. And if you don't play Overwatch 2,
what's the worst? What's the worst graffiti spray in whatever game you do play?
Please tell us what game it is so we understand the context. I guess.
There, I remember we did a thing a while. There was like a thing a while ago where there was like some spray that had been added to a game that like people could like put on a window and then like shoot through. Like it was blocking people's. It was like you could basically put it on like a window and then shoot through it.
Right.
And it was like a real problem. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and we will talk to all y'all later.
Patreon.com/loadingreadyrun.
That too. That's also important.